Hopeful Beginnings is a 501c3 dedicated to perinatal mental health and adoption services. We believe in empowering women and families to build nurturing homes for children. The Hopeful Beginnings podcast tells the stories of pregnancy, birth, and parenthood through the eyes of professionals who serve families in our Chicagoland community. Find out more at hopefulbeginning.org. Welcome back, everyone, to the Hopeful Beginnings podcast. I am so fortunate today to have two special guests with me. I have Andrew Merz with Wintrust and Jason Stallard with Love Local. I never do anyone justice when I do introductions. Would you do me the favor, Andrew, first, to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself professionally and personally.
So my name's Andrew Merz. I'm with Palatine Bank and Trust, which is a part of Wintrust. I help businesses with banking and financing needs. But on the personal side, I've got a family in Palatine. We're Palatine residents for over a decade now. And I have an adopted son who's 4.5 and a biological daughter who's 4. So they're 7 months apart. They keep us pretty busy and love it. And even though it stresses us out from time to time, as I'm sure you're aware as a parent.
I can't imagine 4 and
4.5. Yeah.
4.5. Yeah, I can't imagine why you're stressed out. I remember those are fun ages. And Jason, can you share a little bit about yourself for our listeners?
Yeah, for sure. I local to the Palatine area and a serial entrepreneur, I think we would call me, a local realtor in the area with residential real estate. Also a part of Love Local Studio and Love Local Chicagoland, where we highlight local businesses and nonprofits and bring their stories to life. I'm a father and a husband. The father, for me, I'm a dad to 2 twins. They're going to be 10 years old here in the near future, and they're adopted as well, and super blessed to be able to build our life through adoption. It's been probably one of the coolest experiences of my life.
That's awesome. Thank you both for sharing that. And I'm just so fortunate to share this table with you guys today. I don't really often get to talk to fathers. So I'm just wondering if you can really, either one of you, elaborate, how did your family come to adoption? How did you and your partner decide that was how you were going to come into parenthood and make another child or 2 children part of your journey?
Yeah, so my wife and I early on had always kind of talked about adoption as a way to supplement our family. So we thought, our life plan was we're going to have a couple of kids and then we'll adopt a third, right? And that would be our picture of our life. And as life is wont to do, said no thanks to your plans. And we spent several years trying to have our biological children, including some failed IVF. And then finally, after 2 failed rounds of IVF, decided that maybe it was time to pivot to adoption first as our, well, not first at the time, as the way to build our family. Yeah. And spent about 3 years waiting to adopt. And during that period of time, had 1 failed adoption. And unbeknownst to us, my wife got pregnant, and that shortly after that failed adoption.
I will actually say, as the director of an adoption agency, it's not an uncommon thing. You're not the first, individual I've heard have that story. But you stuck with adoption through the pregnancy, correct?
Yeah. So found out my wife was pregnant. We actually had our first ultrasound the day before we got the call to adopt. Wow. So we went 0 to 60 pretty quickly. We had our ultrasound April 13th, 21, got a call April 14th, said that a mother selected you down in Florida. How quickly can you get there? She's going to have the baby by C-section. And we were like, well, we have to tell you, we just had our first ultrasound yesterday, and the other side of the call was silence, and we're worried that they're going to say you can't adopt now. That's what our concern was, and come to find out, their concern was that we were telling them that we weren't going to proceed with the adoption at that point. I'm like, no, if we can, we will get on a flight now. So we got on a flight 4 hours later to Florida. Our son was born at noon on April 15th. My wife was fortunate enough to be in the operating room for the C-section. And we spent our first couple of weeks of parenthood in a hotel in Florida while we waited for all the paperwork to get done.
There's worse places to be. You got to admit.
It's true. There was a pool.
What about you, Jason? How did you and your wife decide that adoption would be the route? Or, was it your first choice? Was it God's plans? How did it come to be?
It definitely wasn't our first choice. I think for me, I always had a feeling in my heart that we were going to adopt just because my dad was an orphan, but I didn't know it would come to fruition. We were married. We waited a couple years to be able to have kids and try, let alone it took about 8 more years for it all to work out. IVF, just as you've talked about, we went through something like Clomid or something like that. I'm saying the name wrong, but lots of shots, lots of really a lot of process to be able to go through that my wife had to go through, directly, and a miscarriage throughout that process, and kind of looked at each other and was like, well, maybe it's time to adopt, and we put our name in the hat to be able to adopt, went through that process, went with another company because we did not know about Hopeful Beginnings and how amazing you all are. And went with that company, and they actually were really great. And it was our contract ran up after 2 years, and nobody picked us yet. And they gave us 2 or 3 extra few months extensions on this, and we got a call on February 8th, 2016 that a birth mom in Texas was having twins, and the first family that she picked that when she found out it was twins, that she said she couldn't do it because some other things were happening. She was pretty much asked us, are you all up for twins? Which was all we were saving for the next round of going through that process, because we always saw ourselves with a family of 4 with 2 kids. And we got a call on February 8th that my wife was working, I was working, that, we could connect you. And my wife started talking to the birth mom, and she was like, my wife says it very well, but she was like, you all want to be their parents?
What was the emotion when
I think it was shock, because we didn't go through the whole process, but we went through we had a lot of talks with people, so it's an emotional ride. And for us, not knowing that we weren't going to be able to have kids ourselves, it was even put taxes on our marriage at certain points, but at the end of the day, it made us stronger together, and it made us put our faith at the forefront. But I remember that call was there. She was texting it with her throughout that whole next week, and she was about to have the baby. She went full term with the twins. We were super blessed. And we got a call on February 15th of 2016. And she was like, I'm going, she was having headaches, and she was going into the ER, and we got a call 10 o'clock at night saying y'all could come down now. Yeah. So we got in a car, had the bags and everything all packed, and we jumped in the car, drove 16 hours straight to Texas. It was a town called Netton, Texas. It's a suburb of Dallas, and no sleep, no nothing, and got to hold her. Kids for the first time. And like you, it was warm in Texas in February. So it was, we spent 2.5 weeks down there in a hotel room. I remember laughing and bringing a workout bag and telling my wife I was going to go work out throughout all this. Obviously, I didn't know what I was doing. I never worked out. And we were in the hotel room with the kids, and it was a true blessing. Now we look back, they're 10 years old, and I don't know if we would have had it any other way.
Yeah. I mean, kids really do change our lives in so many ways.
For sure.
So both of you, as, fathers going through this process, you both talk similarly about, those infertility struggles. What did you feel like your role, I don't want to say your role was in that, because obviously people have supportive marriages, but how was that experience, I guess, as a man seeing his partner go through that?
So I think the big thing for me was initially my wife was so gung ho on going through the process, not knowing know now, that it isn't an easy process by any means, and what it would do to her physically, emotionally, psychologically. Job as a husband and a father is kind of all the same, right? You got to be the rock, you got to be the support. I'm doing the shots for her because she doesn't want to do the shots herself, and watching her go through these things, to the point where, so we did 2 implantations, we did 2 retrievals, 2 implantations, then we did a 3rd retrieval, and then paused, and because my wife was just burnt out, right? And it's a lot, and again, to life's plan. My wife's a former teacher, and she's a planner. She's a planner and an organizer, and so she's like, well, I'll wait, and then I'll do the implantation in the fall, like at the when the school year starts up again, and so we kind of put it on ice, literally, and then she kind of starts talking about, well, I guess I have to go schedule an appointment so we can start the implant. It was very much obligatory. She was no longer excited about it. So my role kind of was to be like, are you sure this is still the right, is this still what we want to do?
Yeah.
I've seen what it's done to you. I've seen how hard it's been on you. Why don't we wait? And so at that point we weren't talking adoption yet at that point, but we put it on pause. And she eventually came back around to me and said, I think I'm ready to start, looking at adoption.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's hard. My job was easy for all of that. Her body had to go through everything, and she was strong through all of it. But when it became work to try to start a family, I'm like, this isn't right. This isn't what we wanted. This isn't the picture we had in our head, the plan that we had. So, stepping in and saying, let's pause, that was kind of my role at that point. And then her to come back around and say, okay, now it's time to pivot to adoption.
Yeah.
And I think both of us would say we probably, knowing what we know now, we'd probably have started sooner, that process sooner, knowing that we were going to wait for 3 years to adopt.
Right.
To your point with the twins, like all these questions come up in the process, like, are you open to twins? And we're like, heck yeah, like we're 2-for-1 deal, great,
We
kind of ended up with that anyway, with fortunately getting our biological daughter, shortly thereafter. Maybe a little bit easier than twins. I'm not sure though. I've only experienced it this way.
I don't think kids are ever easy. That's what, I talk to so many parents, even if it was the easy pregnancy or you got pregnant so quick, the kid might come out with colic, they always throw us for a loop, right?
Yeah.
Well, and one thing with just our dynamic in our house is my wife is, she's one that she feels fully either direction. I say she rides the roller coaster of emotions, right? When she's down, she's really down.
Mm-hmm.
And when she's happy, she's really, really happy. And I'm more even keel, center of the road the whole time. So, balancing each other out that way too, to try to keep her grounded in the difficult times, but still celebrating in the happy times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ask the question again, because he's like pulling me into my heart and I'm like envisioning it all. So I want to make sure I answer the question.
Well,
directly.
I mean, it's a really broad question,
Yeah.
but, I don't often get to talk to fathers, and really dive into their role and, being alongside their partner who's going through infertility and like that struggle, I guess, to be the supports while your family planning maybe isn't going the way it's supposed to, or you wanted it to go.
Yeah. I think for me, I wish I was more of a support and realizing like how hard it was on her. And I knew how hard it was on her emotionally, but I didn't know how to like react. I didn't know how to like serve her at that time in my life, where if I look at that now, I think I've grown and I would have been able to be a better husband for her. But for me, we failed after the second IVF. And it failed. We came back home and it was like, well, it's time to like sign up for the adoption stuff. And that part for me was like something I always knew was a part of our life. I felt it. I didn't know it was going to come into fruition, but I felt that from a very young age because of seeing my father not have parents directly and how that impacted him. I felt it on my heart that I would want to be able to help support a kid and help raise our kids, and give them good lives. And that was something that was really a big piece of that for me. I think the supportive piece, and we even talk about this now, and we've talked to other adoptive parents. We took turns. You talked, you were like the rock and the stable ground. I'm kind of the emotional roller coaster at times with just my makeup and what I am, and I admire that. But we took turns, and it's taking turns on grieving, on going through hard times, on is this ever going to work out? Yeah. And so we went back and forth, and even at the last one, when this all came to fruition, I was kind of like, well, God, if you're not going to do this, then you're not going to do it, and we're not going to have a family. And that was easier for me to just deal with that than realizing that we might have this other loss or that this might not happen. It was just like, then we got that call. But that last like 3-4 months, Carrie was a bulldog. She was doing everything she could with the adoption agency. We were updating our profile. We were making these shifts to be able to really, a lot of prayer, a lot of faith for us was a big part of how we got through that time. But overall, we took turns. I wish I did more, especially during the IVF stuff. I mean, I look at that now or talk to people. That's just it puts a woman through, just as you said, an emotional and physical roller coaster. And I wish I was better for her, just to be transparent. But overall, through the adoption process, we took turns. And at the end, she just ran it over and closed the deal.
And I think that probably just leads us right into our next question. I heard you both mention the waiting and the profiles and maybe matches that were made that fell through. What do you think a couple or an individual that's starting to look at adoption should know? Like, if you could turn back time and say, I wish someone would have told me this before I started the paperwork, before I started the process, what would that be?
I think for my advice would just be you. Don't try to paint this perfect life. Don't try to just be yourself. Yeah. And you might go through some failed ones. You might talk to birth moms that aren't going to go through it, that are just testing the waters. But you're going to be chosen because you're you. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be your heart. It's going to be your dynamic. It's going to be your smile. It's going to be everything. So be you and be confident that there's a child out there or children out there that will be a part of your family, and working with an organization like yours that helps make that connection. But be yourselves, and don't I want to say don't hold anything back, but be who you are. I think that's really important, and don't overthink it. I think we did a lot of overthinking with the profile, the website, all that sort of stuff, and really we had no control over it. All we could do is be us as we look back and assess the situation. What
about you, Andrew? What
I think
what do you know now that you wish you would have known then?
It's a long wait. I mean, it can be a long wait, right? That's every adoption is different. Every situation is different. Every child is different. Every parent is different. Every birth mom is different. One of the things we were very nervous about when we started looking at adoption agencies was the idea of an open adoption. Yeah. That scared the crap out of us. We didn't know, in our mind, we didn't know how to visualize what that could be. And looking at it now, I mean, we have an incredible relationship with our son's birth mom.
Beautiful.
We talk. My wife texts with her regularly. I mean, she sends gifts for both of our children. Wow. She's come to visit us. We've been down to visit her. We're going to Disney this year, and we're coordinating with them so that they can come and do Disney with us for a day. Wow. Awesome. But that's not everybody's situation, and it can't realistically expect that, right? And but I think the best thing that we did in the process was early on we sat down with an adoption attorney who was willing to give us the time to kind of talk through the process and what to expect. And then the other piece I think that I would recommend is talk to more than one agency if you aren't certain who you want to work with. We did 3 different interviews, and the second one we didn't feel great about, but it was much better than the first one. And then I remember driving to meet with the third adoption agency that we interviewed, and during that drive, I'm like, I guess we'll work with the second one. Like this, we can't keep waiting. And then we went to that third one, and we're like, no, this is where we're meant to be. Like we knew immediately that was, but we were in such a rush. And honestly, I learned that from going through the IVF process. I wish we would have spent more time talking to different doctors.
Right.
It felt very clinical and businesslike with our IVF doctor. And looking back, I feel like that wasn't the right fit for us. We shouldn't have been there. But they were the best or whatever it was. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're the best for you. So, I mean, I guess that's a lot of rambling, but that's a couple of pieces of advice. Yeah.
Those are really good points. And I think the fear around open adoption is something that we do free consults at Hopeful Beginnings with individuals and couples looking to adopt. And always that question comes up because, we're huge promoters of open adoption. That's what research says is best. But I think there is a fear around it because I don't know what you and your wife first thought. What do you think when you hear open adoption? Some people equate it, we're going to co-parent. I don't want that. Was it living it that kind of made that fear go away? Or
it was one of the first conversations with the adoption agency we ultimately worked with. And their reassurance is that open adoption is what you agree to, right? It's what is right for your situation, your family. Hate it or love it, that birth mother is part of your family. Now, that birth mother may not want to be a part of an open adoption, and who knows, what it starts as. It may shift over time, right? But, it ultimately, it's going to come down to what you and your spouse and is right for you, your spouse, and your family.
Yeah, and even the children as they get older, right? Feelings shift, relationships shift, as they should, during life. Did you and your wife experience a similar idea around open adoption or?
Yeah. So I think for me, I wanted an open adoption because I saw my father and the impact he had. And his story was different. He was pretty much dropped off in an orphanage at age 5, but I saw the impact he had from not really knowing his mother and his father later in life. So I took that into be like, we're open for open adoption. But oh my gosh, is it scary. So saying it early on and actually living it, there's a lot of learning and growing in it. And my wife has a connection with the birth mom now. It's on and off. The numbers change, things like that. But she comes back up. We don't know who the birth father is, which is something I think it's a different story of like my son and just making sure he feels and understands who he is as a man as he gets older or something. I really am thinking and praying on now as we go through it and how to help him navigate that and get him the right resources. But we were open for it. We still are open for it. But I could tell a story of like, Carrie. So she was like, we're going to have Krista here for Mother's Day. And she was all excited about it. And I'm like, whoa, you're going to have her here for Mother's Day? Like, and to your point, it's like, what is this? How our parents are going to feel, how are this? And it ended up, Carrie worked through that. It ended up not happening. And I think the birth mom was really nervous about that too, because when we left, she was like, I don't want anything to do with the kids. They're your kids. And but the relationship has still stayed there, and I hope and pray our kids get to meet her someday because she is a vibrant soul with a big heart. She had a handful of kids and couldn't give twins a good life in her view. So she blessed us with our children and how we got to be able to build our family. But I think people should be open for it because me personally, I think it's really good for the kids, talking about going to Florida and stuff like that. I'm like, that's beautiful. But it's also really hard. And there's a lot of emotions that I think that you might not even know are coming your way when you have to open that. But to look at it, but also to do what's right for you and your family, but to look at it and to come closer as a couple.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, thank you so much for that.
That trip to Florida was over Mother's Day weekend, actually.
Really? Oh gosh.
Wow.
Kudos, man.
I don't think I don't believe we spent Mother's Day with his birth mom, but
yeah.
So no, I don't know that. I don't remember if that was intentional or not, but that's when we ended up taking our trip to Miami, which was a trip we had canceled due to COVID. We had actually planned a trip to Miami. It was probably March or April of 2020, and we canceled that trip due to COVID. And we're like, well, it's meant to be. We got to go back, and we'll see Ian's birth mom while we're down there. So,
How old is your adoptive son now?
He'll be 5 in April.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So how do you guys as fathers, how have you been, and how, I heard you a little bit, you're preparing like conversations to have with your adopted son, and I'm sure your daughter as well, about their birth story and their history. How do you start that? Where does it come from?
Yeah, I think we started really early on because we even before they even knew what we were saying, we would talk about, Mama Christie. And, we're your parents, but you came from Mama's Christie belly. That helped us. So it wasn't like the shock at 10 years old that like, oh, you're adopted. So we always brought it in from a very young age, and we got used to being able to talk about it. As they get older, my wife talks to the birth mom from time to time, and we did like a FaceTime, and my son didn't want to meet her. He wasn't ready yet, but my daughter did, and seeing her talk to her was a really beautiful thing, and just meeting the kids where they're at with that piece. My son, I think, he's a cautious, curious soul, and a story, and it's something I'm still learning and growing into, but a story, and what even sparks it in as I go through this journey is I had the Buddy the Elf shirt on. It's an ugly sweater. I hope you find your dad, like that from Buddy the Elf.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in church, and there's something that says something about a father or whatever they're talking about in church. And he looks at my shirt. He's laying down here, and he looks up, and he goes like, Dad, I should be wearing that shirt. I hope you find your dad. I hope you find your biological dad. And I'm like, in church, I'm like, oh, I can't believe that just happened. And like, so
kids are deep. Like
they're
they'll
deep,
get you.
And I try to spend a lot of time with him. I try to love him. I try to give him the things that I feel I could do as a father, but I also know that there's always going to be that void, and because if it was me, there would probably be that void. So I think for me, I'm still in the process, and Carrie too, of like, well, how are we going to navigate this? Because we want to help make sure he has the right resources, because he probably will never know who his birth father is, and that's got to be something that would carry on a kid or as a grown adult. But I think talking, communication, seeking guidance from people that have seen this from other places, like you don't have to do it alone. Like the adoption community is abundant. And I think, we live in the same neighborhood, and we're both adoptive, parents, and it's getting in a community with other people so you don't have to go at it alone, because that's our situation. But I'm sure there's a lot of other different situations for people. So to get in a community, I think is a piece that I would share is helpful for people.
Yeah, there's a lot of support available. Again, the adoption agency you work with is important for this reason as well, right? They can help kind of guide you and prepare you for those future conversations. And again, every adoption is different, right? So I'm very fortunate that we have a birth mother that's wants to be involved, wants to communicate, but we're also geographically separated. So it's not like she shows up and knocks on the door, but I don't know that would be a problem, but like we don't have to navigate that either. We when we came back from Florida, we made a Shutterfly book,
like a life book.
Yeah, that's basically our story of flying to Florida to be in the hospital when he's born, and spending time with his birth mom in the hospital before she was discharged, and then spending time in the hotel, and then both of our parents coming down and meeting him for the first time, and explaining, your mommy Kenya is what we call her. It's our daughter calls her that too. It's just what we call her. She's a young woman that her partner disappeared when she told him that she was pregnant. Kind of lacking any sort of familial support. Working a full-time job, going to college. It would have been hard. I say that I think she would have found a way to make it happen, because that's what I've learned about her in the time that we've known her, is that she would have figured out a way for both of them to live a happy life, but it would have been a more difficult life for both of them. I think there's this historic idea of adoption when it was almost a shameful thing to talk about. And I certainly believe that the vast majority of discussion around adoption present day in the last 10, 15 years has certainly shifted more towards something to be celebrated. I may even argue that the pendulum swung too far, right? Where we've spent a lot of time, Jason and I have spent a lot of time talking about all the different points of grief that are a part of the process as well. It's not all easy. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, but obviously there's more of the happiness and joy of adding to your family and growing together. But there's grief in there too, to his point, and my son likely also will never know his biological father. He's 4.5 right now, so I don't have to deal with a lot of the more difficult conversations, but he understands this and only this, right? This isn't unique to him because this is all he knows currently. As he gets older and grows in his understanding of the world, I'm sure there's going to be more questions and difficult conversations that are going to come up, and we'll just have to cross those bridges as they come and do what we can to support him and love him. And, it's just our reality. So there's no other option. So we'll just have to figure it out as we go.
Yeah, well, I think you guys should give yourself a lot of credit. You're really both coming from such a healthy place of acknowledging that grief and loss that is it's the center of adoption. And we talk about that when we meet with families. It doesn't mean adoption isn't beautiful, but it starts with pain, and acknowledging that for your children. I think that, that's just so beautiful to hear. I guess we've talked, this is like the thread running throughout this conversation. How has adoption, how has fatherhood changed you as humans?
What the heck did I do with all of my free time pre-children?
That's real.
I regularly refer to, I used to do that BC, and they're like, what do you mean before children? Yeah, I used to do a lot of things that I don't have time for anymore. Now I'm happy to be spending the time, like tonight, running to basketball practice with my son, or gymnastics or whatever it might be, play dates, or just last night we played some slapjack while my daughter was at dance class, and he's 100% boy, and my daughter is they're very different, differing interests and patience and ideas of things. I always like to observe like the difference both. We got a boy and a girl. They're 7 months apart, so there is an age gap that's meaningful still. But then we also got the nature versus nurture conversation in there too. Our daughter will sit and color by herself for 40 minutes, and our son will sit for 2 minutes and go, "This is boring," and then get up and go play basketball or something. So it's just always interesting to see just how different they are as people.
Yeah, I'm a proud feminist, but there is real gender differences. I have 3 boys that I mother, and they're not coloring much at all.
Right.
What about for you, Jason?
My wife tells me she's been married to 3 different men over there. And the kids were a big part of that. before the conversation, we talked about time, and what they did to me was just made me realize how precious time is. You see them grow, and you're like, what, they're 10 now, or they're 5 now, and you just see how quick time goes. So for me, it's made me realize how precious time is, and to focus on the small things that are the big things in life that bring the true joy and gratitude. I think being able to want to be a better man for them has made me chisel myself to be better for them, and to show up differently when I go into places. It's made me want to live more of a life of purpose so that I could model that for them. I think for me, go back into it, it's wanting that the relationship with my wife too. I want to be I see how much she holds us together and does the things that she does. So to me, that's the foundation of that, is the kids. So for me to show up for them and to learn with them, to grow with them, to live in humility with them, and to help them become their best selves. And I could do that if I'm always trying to fine tune things within my own self. And for me, and outside of fatherhood, just me and Carrie's relationship, we feel that same way, so that we could be better for them.
Yeah. I feel like we've touched on so many different topics, and adoption's such a spectrum of emotions, hard emotions and beautiful emotions. But any words of wisdom, before we end our time together, really, it could be adoption related about fatherhood, that you'd like to share with the community.
Yeah, I think for me, adoption could be scary, but it's such a beautiful way to be able to build your family. I know one myth that's out there is like, I love the kids just as much as I would love maybe my biological kids. And I'm here to tell you that absolutely, you don't even think about that once you're in it. And it's just a beautiful way to be able to build your family. I think getting involved in community, like Hopeful Beginnings with other adoptive families, so that your kids understand their story and that they're not the only one. I think that's beautiful about the book that you shared, and sharing their story, and it's just a part of it. I think that would be what I would have to say.
What about you, Andrew?
As a father, I think the time is the commonality there for sure. Is it's very easy at least for me, to lose my cool and get frustrated when, I'm the only person talking and nobody is listening. And, that's not necessarily adoption. That's just fatherhood, I think. I think that's parenthood in general, right? So, realizing that there's a finite amount of time that you have, getting choked up a little bit.
It's real, brother. They're only this age now, right? And the minutes might go by slow, but the years have certainly gone by fast so far, and it's not going to get slower as they get more involved with things and go to school and after school activities. It's a reminder to myself, advice to myself to be in the moment.
Yeah, that's beautiful advice. I think we could all learn from that and appreciate that. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing some very real emotions. I really appreciate this. If anyone wants to get in touch with either of you, especially our adoption community, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah. I think the best way is to work through you guys and connect us. I think I'll speak for my wife, but we're resources for people. We've shared our story, what's worked, what hasn't worked. But I think to work through Hopeful Beginnings, and I mean, we're connected pretty highly. We would love to be able to support and help. I think that might be the best way. I could share an email or anything like that, but I think that might get lost. I think that connection could help me get my wife involved and get it executed. But we would love to be a resource if you think that we would be a good fit to talk to.
All right, thank you. What about you, Andrew? What's the best way to get in touch?
I think that's a great point too. As somebody that's consistently involved with Hopeful Beginnings at this point, certainly always happy to be a point of contact through you for any adoptive families or anybody that's looking for some advice there. But I'm also very present on LinkedIn through my role at the bank. So you can Google and find anything you need on in terms of contact info. But I'm always happy to be a resource.
Thank you all so much.
For sure. Thank you.
Thank you.